Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool. And sometimes for inspiration of new designs, you have to look towards the past, and that's exactly what Civivi has done here with this slip joint version of their wildly successful Elementum design. Now what's interesting here is every time I do a video that involves maybe auto knives or assist knives or something like that, there are comments of people who wish that they could carry something like that, but where they live, it's against the law. Now I've done videos like this one way in the past. This is the Falcon-Even LTC, or legal to carry. It's a 3G steel slip lock folder. Absolutely featureless. Apparently that's an important thing. So it's kind of smooth, no texture to grab hold of. You know, basically the things that make a knife safe are absent from this. Lanyard hole, kind of blocky design. But it's probably got enough to argue with that you are not of ill intent if this is what you're carrying, since there's just as good a chance you're going to slice your own finger off as somebody else's. However, I have left the slip joint realm probably ever since Swiss Army knives. Now before that, we used to carry around like pocket folders, bucks, and old timers. Look at that. There's a Schrade Walden, if you need to look that up. Those are the only ones I still hang on to. But the problem with these is you'd bust your fingernail, or these would get wedged with dirty. In fact, I dug up another one. Look at this. What do we have here? It's a Schrade USA. However, it's rusted. And I can't get this blade up because it's rusted. I'm going to break my fingernail trying to. That was the problem with these, is they were a little hard to deploy. Sometimes you'd use something else, a stick or a rock or a piece of metal, and try to pry that blade up. But anyway, once we came up with you know, good lock mechanisms other than lockbacks, and although I'm sure people are going to argue that the lockback's a great design, I'm just not a fan of them, or different deployment methods, suddenly, you know, these were all, as far as I'm concerned, in the rear view mirror. And why? Because they're hard to open. You can't open them one-handed, and that's actually something that is part of the design of the new knives, like this slip joint here, is it is impossible to open one-handed. However, what has happened in Montana is, well, yeah, what if you've got a motor dexterity issue? You know, you've got limited grip strength. Maybe you only have one hand. You're missing fingers. So what? You're not allowed to use a knife because they're too dangerous if you can open them with something other than two full hands? Nope, that didn't fly. So guess what? Montana got rid of pretty much all knife laws. Actually, technically all knife laws. Now anything that deals with weapons, such as in schools or in non-permissive locations, then these matter. But it isn't this versus this. It's that you're carrying a knife, or possibly the blade length, like over 4 inches in a school environment. I'll do something with the blade length. This is another Civivi release that I'll talk about, and that has to do with the blade length and the blade design, and why some jurisdictions have a hang up with that. But anyway, going back here, so what we have is essentially a slip joint folder in the Elementum design. Elementum is usually this handle shape and this blade shape combined, whether in the slip joint here, whether in this liner lock kind of G10 scale version, whether this one, of course, doesn't have the same blade, but similar handle flare, and this utility knife, or this kind of fancy Damascus and crushed and carbon fiber and gold with a button lock. Lots of different things, and even a fixed blade like this guy. This is D2 steel. It's basically a blown up version, but there is something just magical about this hollow grind in this shape. I don't think they should call this a drop point hollow grind. I think they should call it an Elementum, because it has reduced the essence of whatever it is and the magic in this Civivi knife to the elements, and that's it. It's highly recognizable. So I think you could actually name that blade shape after the Elementum, but maybe that's just me. So going back here, now what happened was anyone who has a problem, maybe with grip strength, fingernails, arms, whatever, could not open this. And there are police who would say, you know, can you flick it? You know, if I'm holding on to the blade, is there any way I can deploy the blade with gravity or a flick, and oftentimes that reduces the technical legality of the blade down to what is physically possible by the investigating officer. If you happen to have, these giant gorilla hands and they can flip anything at at light speed, they might be able to pop one of these open. Does that make it illegal? Well, technically. So I think Montana was great for ditching a lot of the issues around the different kinds of knives, since most of it was arbitrary. But there are a lot of other states that are doing that too, or that have done it. You can go to kniferights.com, or .org. Sorry. Doug Ritter runs that. I had the pleasure to spend some time talking to Doug at a SHOT Show once about knife rights, etc. And it's a tough battle. It's not just knives, but it's, all these hand tools, EDC things. Would this be illegal? Or if I made it bright orange and rubbery and Fiskars and slowed it way down and slid that out versus a spring load, there's all sorts of arbitrary things. But going back to the Elementum slip joint, what this is a bridge. While the states might be catching up, or even maybe other countries are catching up to functional knife laws, or lack of, you can actually get the Elementum and use it. Now, a lot of people, it's kind of interesting. It's like, this would be illegal, this guy here, because you can flip it open easily. But this one that's already open and probably, arguably, a lot stronger and longer and thicker is legal. So what's with that? Is it because you can't hide this guy here in your pants as easily as you can here? Lots of arbitrary laws. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but sometimes it's like, I've been in New York, and it's like, can you carry a razor blade? Can you carry toenail clippers that actually have a little knife on them if that knife locks in position so you don't cut your hand when you're trying to, scrape the goo out of your toenail? I don't know. Anyway, that's why I like it here. I don't have to worry. I can put about anything in my pocket. Actually, I can put pretty much anything in my pocket and walk around. But beautiful expression here with the Damascus steel. That's the one I chose because I really like the Civivi Damascus steel. It is interesting to go back in time and use a slip joint. It's like, whoa, are they legal? I mean, you could really cut your finger. Well, yeah, I did. I mean, as a kid, always cutting my fingers, with the Swiss Army knives. That last little bit as it slipped down, or you open more than one blade and then you cut yourself. But anyway, I'm glad to see Civivi at least reaching out to what might be a smaller market of those people who would want something like this, where then they could carry a slip joint, probably like Falcon even did here, where people want a quality knife. That was the other thing, is you need a slip joint, you go to the gas station, or you go old school. With old-timers, Bucks, Case, things like that. Why can't I have carbon fiber and Damascus in essentially, a permissive design? I don't know. So I'm glad Civivi is doing that. This one here is the Elementum slip joint. That's just what they call this. And it sells for about $90 street price. So you get all the goodness of the traditional Elementum with hopefully an arguable or plausible deniability or an alibi or whatever, that if you carry this, you have no ill intent. And it's obviously safer. Just kidding. Anyway, so there it is. I'm glad Civivi's doing it, and I'm glad that they are taking what is a well-tested, well-designed shape and expressing it across plenty of choices. Anyway, so there it is. Slip joint magic from Civivi. And with that, Doc out.